What is going on, Los Angeles? Welcome into the LA football show. Super excited to be joining you live right now. A little Dyrud After Dark edition. Going to be joined by some awesome guests right now as well. If you have any questions out there, pop them our way. But we're talking all Rams, and then we're going to end the show with a little Shrine talk as our good buddy Ryan is out in Vegas right now covering the Shrine Bowl. So excited to have you guys all in here. Rams win, take down the Niners, and are heading to Super Bowl 56 here in Los Angeles. And to talk about it with me right now, let me welcome in to the show my man Ryan Anderson, beat writer on the LA Football Network for your Rams. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Glad to have you. But we're also going to be joined by the Queen Better herself, Brittany Bets on YouTube. She's host of Brittany Bets with Friends right here on the LA Football Network. Brittany McReynolds, what's going on? Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, guys.
Brittany.
We're NFC champions.
Oh, my. Okay. Let me just ask this, Brittany. I'll start with you. So before the season started, we did all these trades. And obviously the media was talking about, okay, Rams are Super Bowl favorites. I think fans thought that. But how much did you actually think it was going to happen that on this day now, the Rams would be heading to the Super Bowl?
I knew it.
I love it.
I knew it. And I put my money where my mouth was. And I actually bet on the Rams to win the Super Bowl back in May. So, okay. I mean, that's just my heart. You know what I mean? They say don't ever bet with your heart. But I knew it. Just the way that they were putting the team together. It was go big or go home. And it's going to pay off. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, I don't think anyone put money on the Bengals probably except for diehard Bengal fans hoping. But that's impressive that they're there. It's a fun opponent that we'll get into all throughout the 2 weeks we have leading up to it. But Ryan, how surprised were you that the Rams are where we are today, or were you the same way? You were all confident, all in once we got Stafford and things were ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I was super confident. I remember the win over the Buccaneers in week 3. It felt like we were headed in that direction. It felt like the Rams were definitely a Super Bowl caliber team. They went through their bumps, but I mean, especially on Twitter, these fans, they forget the season goes through multiple different incarnations, and the team, evolves and changes over time. And this one definitely did. And they're in a really good spot, and they're in a really good spot.
Special guest.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, no, Ryan. I
couldn't agree more. The biggest mini Rams fan.
Was she at the game?
Of course.
I love it. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Start him young. But yeah, Ryan.
So no, she didn't make it to the game. We took her to the Jacksonville game.
Okay.
Ease her in with an easy one.
Yeah, there you go. So I was going to take my daughter. My daughter's not 2 yet, and for me, the reason why I didn't take her, I was like, I'm just going to end up chasing her on the concourse the entire time. It's not going to be fun for me. I won't be able to enjoy the game. I wasn't worried about the noise. I thought she would have handled that fine. But so soon, hopefully next year, we'll get her. She'll be able to be calm enough to be able to handle it. But yeah, back to what you're saying, Ryan. Like, this was the most criticized 12-win team like I can ever remember. I mean, this team won the division. I know it wasn't the way that we all wanted them to win it with that tough loss to the Niners, but they won the division. They had a quarterback in Matthew Stafford who passed for the third most yards out of every quarterback in the entire NFL. The defense overall, like PFF graded them as like the top defense in the NFL in almost every gradable category that they had. And yet there was just so much doubt, so much clouded doubt. Why do you think that was? You think it was just because when these trades and this all-in mantra that people had, it was like they should go 17-0, and when they lost 5, it was like, oh no, the sky's falling?
I think that's a big part of it. And I think that, especially with Stafford, because of his inconsistent play and his really bad interceptions at times, that's the first thing that people notice. And when a quarterback is costing a team points and wins and things like that, it's so easy it's an easy thing to criticize. The one of the media's favorite things to do is go after Garoppolo, and it's for the same reason, because he's inconsistent. He makes turnovers. He makes those dumb mistakes. So it's just a kind of a lazy way to critique a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And it's that I talked about it a bunch throughout the year. The expectation was just so high. So when it didn't quite hit all of those expectation notes, it's then everyone's going to rain down and everyone's going to call them soft and this. And, it's a long season. You kind of grow and you learn your way throughout the season. You learn your way throughout the bumps and bruises. So, but let's get to the actual game. Oh, go ahead. You were going to add something to that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's that super team mentality as well. It's like if it doesn't work out, it's like, oh, everything, the sky is falling. But it takes time for guys to work into the system and gel and make it work. And we've seen that with both Odell and Von Miller. They've come on really strong in the later part of the season, and both had a huge impact in the playoffs, especially back in the game.
Yeah, it's amazing how much now that they feel comfortable, we can truly see those paying off. So, but this game specifically, Brittany, you were there. Let's just talk quickly about the atmosphere. I mean, what was the vibe like? It looked amazing. I know all week it was talking about Niner fans coming in, and you know what? It is what it is. I still think it looked like a good atmosphere, but you were there. What was the atmosphere like? What was the vibe like?
It was so exciting. Can you guys hear me? I'm having so many technical difficulties. Sorry.
You're good.
And you probably hear drawers and cabinets banging. That's life of having a 4-year-old. But yeah, so it was so exciting. We got there, I wouldn't say too early. The tailgaters, they get there like 10:30, the pink lot. But we got there like right when everything started happening. I mean, everybody was just so excited. There were a lot of Niner fans, and granted, I did get in the stadium a little bit earlier because I wanted to catch the Bengals game. They had it on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I sat down, most of the people in their seats were Niners fans. And so it did look overwhelmingly just like a sea of red. Like the last game. But I think that one, I'd say it was a good 55-45.
55 in favor of the Niners? Did we lose? 55 in favor of the Niners, are you saying?
I mean, it really depended on the shots that they were showing from the crowd. Like some of those just looked all red, some looked all blue.
I
mean, I'm just so curious about when the air came out of those Niners fans. At what point did they lose hope, or when did it feel like it shifted out? That would be
Well, and it was just so opposite of the Week 18 game, right? Like it was. I think Brittany's having some technical difficulties. All good. But it was Week 18 was the Rams up on top, 17-0. And then the Niners come roaring back and end up forcing overtime. And then this one was the opposite. The Rams were down 17-7. The Niners the Niners were up 17-7. The Rams then come roaring back and ended up taking the lead 20-7 and hold on and win. So it was just such an opposite kind of a emotional roller coaster, I guess, for both fan bases. Because I'll just call it, I mean, we can guess and speculate. I think it was probably 50-50. It was just a good, basically non-home field advantage. You heard many times the announcers say that both teams were on a silent count. So it was basically a neutral turf, which, it is what it is. And I think that's going to be a national story forever and ever until it's not. But I think we still have an uphill climb for that not to be a story anymore, just because of that 20 years of having no teams here. I've talked about it, at nauseam in the last few weeks here about how the 20 years I lived here, not 20 years, but the 20 years when there's no team here, I moved here in 2008, and everyone I knew in LA was either a Niners fan or a Raiders fan. That's just how it was back in 2008 when there were no teams here. Rams moved in 2016, and then you start building that fan base slowly, and they're doing a great job, and that fan base is growing. But those 21-year-old college kids that were Niner fans that are now 31 don't just decide to change and go to the rival team because now they're in LA. So that's what it is here.
Yeah. And I think that's been Les's big bet. He's always thinking in bets, and I think that's his big bet. We're gonna attract a fan base by making the Super Bowl a couple of times, maybe bringing one home in 2021.
Exactly. So a couple players, Ryan, that we got to get to. So obviously the Stars played how we wanted them to. I think Von Miller Had a quieter game than he did the first 2 games of the playoffs, but was still setting the edge, still playing hard, still Von Miller, a guy you run away from him. Aaron Donald, obviously, we'll get to later because he had the exclamation point at the end, but was kind of quiet throughout the game. Matthew Stafford played great, but I think the big names here in this game, and I'm going to start with one and throw it to you, and we'll just kind of go back and forth. But Tyler Higbee goes down, tight end. And he is so important. I think he's more important to this offense. Rams fans know, but maybe people that are just tuning into the NFC Championship game that don't know. I don't think they know truly how important Tyler Higbee is to this team. He goes down, ruled out. We find out now today from Sean McVay that it was an MCL sprain, so questionable for the Super Bowl, but hopeful that he's back. But in steps Kendall Blanton, who not only came into the season as like the 3rd/4th string tight end, but now in this game was the only remaining tight end left. And he made some huge plays, finished with 5 catches, more than he had the entire season, for 57 yards, a few of those for big 3rd down conversions. What were your thoughts on Blanton and how he just stepped up in this big moment and seized the opportunity?
I mean, what a surprise,
Yeah.
I've always recognized him as a great blocker, good role player, good guy that can come in off the bench. Who knew that he could move in space like that? I think he had an average of 10.6 yards after the catch. So good quality moving in space there. And yeah, I mean, it's incredible that, it goes back to those bets that they make and the guys in the late rounds picking up, free agents, off waivers or whatever. And, they're just investing in guys, building them up as coaching staff gets them ready to play. And he came in and he did it, and big reason why they were able to keep those drives alive.
Yeah, it's fun, Ryan, because me and you both were at training camp this year, covering this team, and Blant was one of those like bubble guys to even make the team. I mean, you looked at the tight end room, and obviously you had Higbee, and then you had other guy. Johnny Munt was the clear number 2, and obviously with good reason, but then he gets hurt later in the year. But you have
Jacob Harris went out too.
Jacob Harris, the young rookie who is everyone excited about. And you have other guys, and Blanton was kind of just this guy fighting for a practice squad spot. And here he is, NFC Championship game with all the marbles on the line and 5 for 57, dude. It's stories like that make the NFL, I think, still the greatest sport in the world, and for sure the greatest sport here in America, because where else do you see that as often as we see in the NFL? You have obviously you have guys, baseball, a nobody comes up out of nowhere and hits like a home run in a big time game, or an NBA guy might have one big game in a 7-game series. But we see it so often in the NFL where these guys just work, and then come into these big moments and shine. And I was just so pumped for Kendall Bland because it was huge. That was great. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL has such a heightened level of intensity to it, and if a guy can come in and make an impact like that, they know what they got to do, and they're looking to make an impression on the fans and on the coaches. So he did it.
Yeah. So okay, next guy we're going to talk about, and I love this. Everyone was talking. I think this new nickname is going to stick because everyone talks about against Tampa Bay playoff Lenny. Leonard Fournette plays big in the playoffs. Well, we got playoff Nick Scott all of a sudden, who has, if I'm not mistaken, I should have. Boy, horrible, lazy host here. I should have looked it up, but if I'm not mistaken, I think he's played every snap in the playoffs since being called up to the starter once Jordan Fuller went down. And he's played fantastic. Like, it's not like they've seen a drop off from production from the safety position. And, finished yesterday with 6 total tackles, had that one monster hit on Debo. What's just been your thoughts on Nick Scott so far and how he's not only played well, but, really seized this opportunity to be a starter? And I mean, it's going to be hard to not let him continue being that when guys are healthy next year.
Yeah. I mean, when Fuller went out and Taylor Rapp went out, I was really worried at that specific spot because they were a little bit thin. We hadn't seen Burgess or Scott really in those starting roles. They hadn't played very many snaps all year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just incredible that this team is able to continually churn out the talent. It's just the next man up mentality, even though that's an overused phrase. They're prepared. And I didn't know he was a big hitter like that. And he's been doing it all. That's the amazing thing in these playoffs. He's been, he's made 1 or 2 plays in every game that's allowed the Rams to continue moving down the path towards the Super Bowl. And yeah, I mean, those are the kind of stories in football, like you were saying, that I just loved as well. You know, low draft picks, just coached up into the right positions, and you get to see real talent.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I've shared this before, so I'd probably regurgitate my stories a lot. But when I first started doing this show, you know, back a few years ago, he was one of my first guests I had on. It was after the Rams drafted him, 7th round pick out of Penn State, and we tried to get that whole draft class on. Got quite a few on, but he was one of the first ones, and just an awesome dude, like super nice, kind, polite. You know, excited to be a Ram, excited to be in LA, excited to be on our show, which we thought was cool because we were like this brand new podcast interviewing football players. And you could just see how bright of a mind he was, how smart he was. But at the time, you know, 7th round pick, drafted essentially to be a special teams guy, and then gets through these 3 years, has gotten like elevated a little more playing time and safety. And then all of a sudden, boom, come playoffs. Hey, you're starting. We're down 2 guys. And he's been great, and he's laid the boom. And it's fun to see in a day and age when it's so hard to hit guys in the NFL now, Ryan, because of all the rules, and rightfully so. We got to protect these guys, and we know about all the concussion issues. But both of his big hits, he's had a number of them, but the big one against AJ Green against Arizona, and then yesterday against Deebo Samuel, were both textbook, technical, clean hits. And it's just, man, it brings me back. I'm not comparing him, but brings me back to like Steve Atwater and Ed Reed and these guys that you didn't want to go over the middle with. And yeah, I don't think everyone thought Nick Scott was going to be that, but he's kind of becoming that all of a sudden.
Yeah, I love to see it. And I'm curious as Terrell Burgess, what's going on there? Like, why are they keeping him in the pocket so much? Get him out on the field a little bit more. And yeah, I think the better the safeties play, the better the Rams are, because they're the way they play the defense. They can leave the middle, the second level a little bit vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And if they're, you know, coming up and making those hits, it makes it a lot easier for the guys on the front side.
Yeah. And that's the other guy I was going to get to. I got 2 more that we'll talk about, and we can get into maybe some coaching decisions and stuff. But Eric Weddle, who we signed up the couch just not too long ago, and the whole Burgess thing is mind blowing to me. I just don't understand it, because I think Burgess is, you know, they drafted him in the 3rd round. He was great at Utah. He flashed really good stuff last year before he got hurt. And so it's so odd to me how they still, even you lose both your safeties, you bring a guy out of retirement, and Weddle's also, I think, played every snap yesterday. Burgess can't get on the field. So I don't know if there's something else going on there, but it hasn't cost the Rams, because Eric Weddle played great. 9 total tackles, led the team in tackles, had that huge stop on 2nd and 1, which then led to a 3rd and 2, which the Rams stopped again, which then led to, we'll talk about this in a minute, but then the Niners punting, and that's when the Rams went down and scored. And it's just amazing to me that Weddle not only is playing so well, but is actually playing like every snap and is physically like ready to rock and roll a year and a half removed. How shocked are you Weddle's playing as well as he is?
I'm completely shocked. You know, you never know when a guy's coming back to the NFL what exactly he's going to do. We've seen it be just awful, terrible, you know, performances, and everybody says you can't stay in football shape if you're not playing football on a regular basis. But he looked like he was ready to go, and obviously from his production, he's just bringing that experience, and in terms of what they have in the secondary, they don't have a lot of experience. I mean, Jordan Fuller's a 2nd-year player. Yeah. Rapp is 3rd year. Nick Scott's 3rd year. Darius Williams 4 years. You know, there's no true veteran. Even Jalen Ramsey, he's got a years under his belt, but not like Weddle. And that experience has really helped Weddle make all those plays. He just knew he knew where everything was going to happen before it happened.
Yeah. Oh, and I think that's not talked about enough. So that's a good point, Ryan, that it's that cerebral sense that what made him so good and a Pro Bowler for all those years, it hasn't left him. And I think too, with the physical side of it is, you know, the NFL now isn't like it was 20 years ago where, you know, in practices, you're hitting, you're running 2-a-days, you're doing conditioning drills all throughout the season. Like Now you don't hit in practice. Like there's zero hit. I mean, we saw it training camp. There's zero hitting. Practice, there's zero hitting because you don't want to. A, it's the CBA agreement, but B, you just don't want to risk getting guys hurt in practice. And so most of these guys in general, like most of their exercise, their conditioning, comes with private trainers. Obviously, during the season, you're at the facility with the the team strength and conditioning coaches, but in the off season, it's all doing their own stuff anyway. So a guy like Weddle was probably. He's a fit guy. He's still in his 30s, wanted to stay in shape, has probably been training at the same level he had been training at his whole career, just wasn't happened to be running around with other guys in shells on Wednesdays and Thursdays up in Thousand Oaks. So that's really the only difference, I think. And it shows because the dude's running all over the place, laying the wood.
Yeah. And to your point about the change of the physicality of the game and what defenses are allowed to do, he was kind of in that, last phase, last transition of guys that could really lay it down, but he had to transition out of that. So I think that's kind of an interesting idea too, that he had to switch mid-career, and but he learned and practiced the way they used to practice 2 days and all that, and it worked out. Another bet worked out.
Yeah, I know. Les is. I want to go to Vegas with that guy because I feel like you're in Vegas. You get Les over there and be like, hey, let's go on the blackjack table for a few rounds, a few hands, right? Because whatever that guy touches so far seems to be working. Last player I want to mention of the unsung heroes, A'Shawn Robinson. I think when this guy was acquired 2 years ago, I was really excited about him from Detroit. Some history there with Matthew Stafford, and a big guy. Kind of was seen. Kind of the writing was on the wall at that point that they were probably ready to move on from Michael Brockers. Just the way they run things with the Rams with contracts is that's kind of how they do it, just so they can afford certain guys. Is let certain guys run their course or have to trade bait. And so A'Shawn Robinson was that D end. Similar in size to like a Michael Brockers, and we didn't get to see him a lot the first year he was here because of some cardiovascular issues and some stuff that kept him out. And then this year we've seen him kind of come to his own, play well, but you never really heard his name much. And now in this game, finished with 6 total tackles, but I think was just so gap sound. And you see certain instances and highlights where he's forcing runners where the hole was where he was. That was where the play was planned to go. He was so gap sound, forced the runner to go elsewhere. And guess what? They're running into Aaron Donald or running into the linebacking core. So what's been your thoughts on A'Shawn and just kind of how he's assimilated to this defense and really started getting stronger and stronger week in and week out?
Yeah, I think it was great to see him in that run stopping role, because that's exactly what they need him to be. And I think that was the biggest adjustment from the previous 2 Niners games to this one, is that they were able to stop the run, and he was such a huge part of that, just clogging up those A gaps. And he was just playing bully ball. He was meeting the Niners with the Niners' same style. He was just getting in there. In the first 2 games, the Niners averaged 4.3 yards per run, and in this game it was just 2.6 yards per run.
Yeah.
And what that does to the Niners is it makes them play a little bit left-handed, because that's what they lean on. That's, everybody knows that's what they do. And Shanahan's so good at scheming those runs open. But in this game, that was, for everybody that's calling for Raheem Morris's head on Twitter, like he just proved everybody wrong, that he made some huge adjustments, and this was one of them, stopping that run game. Another one was the missed tackles. There was only 6 missed tackles in the game, where in the last 2 games there was 32 missed tackles.
Oh my, 32. And that's the difference right there.
It's not a coaching thing, but the way Raheem Morris coaches, he knew what he needed to do in this game, and he was coming down on those guys if they were not hitting hard, wrapping up on those tackles.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because it's such a good point. And I hope people out there that have been hard on Raheem will take a step back and congratulate the guy, because the dude is a phenomenal coach. His players love him. I mean, you've heard Jalen Ramsey come out and say it's the best coach he's ever played for, and he's played for
amazing,
Brandon Staley. He's played for Wade Phillips. And so when you come out and say that about Raheem Morris, I think that speaks very highly about how good he is. and how relationship wise good he is. And this is a different topic for a different day, but unfortunately, I think there's a real good shot that one of our coordinators ends up getting hired by Minnesota, considering they've both Raheem and both Kevin O'Connell have gotten second round interviews now with the Vikings. So if what's his name? Jim Harbaugh doesn't want that job, I think it's going to probably be one of our Rams guys. But what Raheem's done, I think is so great. And yeah, you meant A'Shawn Robinson, I think, was brought in here to stop the run, not rush the quarterback. He stopped the run. We saw it yesterday. San Francisco finished with 50 yards rushing. I mean, if anyone would have told you the Niners finished the game with under 70 yards rushing, I think that's basically a given they're going to lose. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That puts the game in Jimmy Garoppolo's hand, and that's not always a good place for the ball to be.
Yeah. I think I've talked to a lot of Niners people about Jimmy, and it seems to be split up there. And the consensus I got, though, from most is that even the ones that like Jimmy and think he's, the quarterback, and even if Trey Lance is one of them waiting, most of them would agree that Jimmy's not going to lose you many games, but he's also not going to win you those, like on your back when it comes down to it. And I think yesterday proved it, because they needed him to really he didn't play horrible, but they needed him to play like Matthew Stafford or play like one of the higher elevated quarterbacks that can elevate your team. And he just wasn't able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, my take on him is that when things get rough and things kind of break down, he doesn't really know exactly what to do. He's great if the pocket's kept clean and everybody's hitting the spots that they need to hit. But when that's not happening, he's not sure what to do. And it's either check down for a loss or tossing it out of bounds or flinging it up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he comes from, I wouldn't call it the Brady tree, but, comes from New England, and that Brady and what has made Brady so good, and I'm not comparing the two of them by any means, because Brady's great at it, but he's really good pre-snap, right? Like, so he can know pre-snap, okay, this is my option. These are my first two options. It's going to be open here most likely because of the way we've schemed it up. We've practiced all week going against their defense. And so we see that when you find a Kittle, when you find a Deebo Samuel, he's really good at that. But as soon as the Rams were able to make adjustments and be confusing a little bit, and you saw Jimmy have to like go through 1, 2, and then he gets a little trigger happy in the pocket, that's when it's like, okay, we got him beat. Then it's game over if they're not able to hit that first or second option that he's made pre-snap. And that's how you beat these guys. And obviously they prove that.
Yep, exactly.
So talking about McVay, this was, I mean, you were obviously on Twitter, I'm sure, and there was a lot of talk about McVay. Let me just ask you this. I won't even get it. What did you think of McVay in this game? Did you think he called a good game? Was there a lot of criticism you have, or overall you thought it was okay?
I mean, so he's a good offensive mind, and I think that his play calling was good. Situationally, the challenges, the challenges in the timeout management, the game management part of that, it's very confusing. He and Shanahan are kind of cut from the same cloth in that way. And they make a lot of the same mistakes. It didn't end up having a big effect on the end of the game, the result of the game. But those are the kind of things that can, you lose a couple of challenges, and when you need one coming down to the wire, you need a timeout to get that field goal in. I mean, if we lose a Super Bowl that way, and those are, you look back at Andy Reid's earlier career, going back to the Eagles, and that was a big criticism of his, is that he didn't know how to manage the clock at the end of the game.
Yeah. And even early in Kansas City, he was like that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that ended up costing him some playoff games and getting to the Super Bowl. And I don't know if it ever had an effect in that one Super Bowl he made there, but I had let's see here. A 4th and 2 quarterbacks sneak. I don't know if I would have. I think he could have got 2 yards in a different way. But I mean, these are all small quibbles, and I think he called a really good game, the best game he's called in a while against the Niners. Didn't get. He didn't get nervous. He kept it under control and calling the good plays. Kendall Blanton, I mean, that was a big help. I mean, Odell Beckham was getting the passes outside the numbers, which opened up that middle. So he just kept feeding Kendall Blanton to keep moving that ball, and I think that really helped calm him down. Stafford likes to find a rhythm, and I think McVay likes to find a rhythm today. And I have no like, I'm not gonna castigate the guy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It was, you're sitting here watching the game and you're on Twitter, obviously, because we live tweet during the games. And there was I was kind of surprised how heavy the criticism was on coach. And a lot of it was coming too from even Rams fans. There's just other fan bases I see. And I think the game management and the challenges and the timeouts is an issue, obviously. But I think it's, in today's world with Twitter and fans always analyzing everything, in my opinion, I think it's overblown. Not saying it's not an issue, but I think it's, people see that and they're like, wow, what a moron, or what are you thinking? What are you doing? And I think it's not as big of a deal as maybe people make it seem. Now the challenges themselves, I mean, it's silly to me to challenge a spot because those are hardly ever reversed. So that was the first challenge. And the second one, the ball came out at the end there. And typically too, I don't think a lot of people know this, but there's someone in the booth that usually radios down to the head coach and says, hey, challenge this. We have a good look. And so obviously the head coach then has the opportunity to say, okay, let's do it. Or nah, I didn't get a good look. Let's not. So it's still on the head coach, but more criticism should go to whoever's in the booth making those calls. That guy needs to be probably, okay, don't make those calls anymore, because you haven't gotten any. I don't think they've won one this year, have they? Or maybe they're 1-10 or something.
I think I remember them saying on the broadcast he had one challenge, and I don't recall if he won it or lost it, but I mean, I think it didn't come into play this game, but I would love to see him be a lot more aggressive on fourth down.
Yes,
that especially in the Super Bowl, those are the drives that will be able to keep the ball moving down the field, and you're gonna have to put up points against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that's all they do.
So that gets to the next point. So if we're gonna, and we didn't really that much, because I think McVay called a really good game too. I didn't really touch on it too much, but overall I thought he called a great game. He ran the ball 23 times between Cam Akers and Stoney Michel. So I thought there were times in the game when got a little pass happy, but then he was able to get back to the run. So I thought overall called it really good. Had a lot of receivers involved. And Matthew Stafford obviously was able to hit those guys when they called the right plays, and they would have probably put in more points if not for the tipped pass in the end zone on the opening drive, and then the 2 drop touchdown passes from Cooper Kupp and Ben Skowronek. So this game actually could have gotten more in the favor of the Rams if not for those execution plays, which we're not coaching. But if we're going to sit here, and not even us, and I try not to watch those dumb national debate shows or whatnot. So maybe they have done this, but I just haven't heard too much, at least on Twitter. If there's going to be criticism on Coach McVay and his challenging and lack of going for it on fourth down, then in my opinion, there sure as hell better be criticism of Kyle Shanahan for that 4th and 2 on the other side of the 50, when he could have essentially, I mean, there's still 11 minutes on the clock, but you get that conversion, you essentially can almost either put the game, I think it was tied at that point, so they can at least go for the lead at that point. Sean McVay challenges it, loses the challenge, loses another timeout, and then Kyle goes out there, trots the offense out, and decides just to play the whole, we're going to try to draw you offsides thing, and then goes and punts it. To me, that was really egregious coaching. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what was the last team to fall for that 4th and short penalty thing? I'd love to see the analytics on that. I mean, and the crazy thing is while McVay is conservative on 4th down, Shanahan is as well. But Shanahan's specialty is getting 3-4 yards. Yeah. So if you can't dial up a play that you've been dialing up all year to get that many yards, I guess he's got no confidence. He's still got 28-3 in his crosshairs. can't let that go.
That's fair. And, I mean, I guess to his credit, his defense had primarily played pretty well. I figured he could pin him deep and hopefully kind of just keep the field position in his favor. But yeah, I just think of all times to go for it, that was the one. I mean, you're on the other side of the 50, 4th and 2. But I guess it was, it was 2nd and 1. You lose a yard, 3rd and 2. You get no gain. So maybe it's like, okay, they have us on this one. But I just thought that was the point for me. Everyone points to the Tart dropped interception. To me, that was the point that said, okay, the Rams are winning this game. I was like,
oh wow, yeah,
you're not going for it there. The Rams are going to step in your throat then.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that plagues Shanahan is he thinks he's he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And he's got I'm gonna live to fight another day. We're gonna get him on the next go around. And the NFL's one and done in the playoffs. I mean, there's not going to be a next time. You gotta strike when the iron's hot. You gotta, go for the touchdown instead of the field goal. You gotta keep the drive alive, and that's the difference in this game.
Yeah,
like you were saying.
It's funny to me that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are these like offensive gurus, like offensive guys, and yet they play so conservative when it comes to 4th down. And you have coaches like Brandon Staley and Vic Fangio who are defensive guys that are going for it on we're going for it. We're going for it every time. I just think that's funny that you think it'd be the opposite of that.
Yeah. Well, it's always been peculiar to me that you'll get like a defense have a head coach and their offense just ends up being really good. Like the Bills. I mean, McDermott's a defensive guy. He's just got a humming offense, and I can't think of Vic Fangio. I mean, he's had some good offenses.
Didn't have great ones in Denver as a head coach, but definitely had someone who was a coordinator. But so last couple things about this game, then we'll talk to the Shrine Bowl, which you are down there covering for all those draftniks out there listening. But Aaron Donald, it was shown on the sidelines there, him firing at the team, and he's usually not very vocal. He's a lead by example kind of guy. And did you see? So obviously in the broadcast they showed the video of it, but did you see now the audio has come out with it? Were you able to get a chance to watch that?
I haven't seen that,
dude. It's almost like you're watching like Remember the Tides or something. Just he's like firing up the guys, like this is our moment. Like give it all you got. Everything you have laid on the line. It was just such a cool, like goosebump moment. So let me say this. I talked during the week about, I was guest on some other shows and they said, who do you got in this game? Who are you predicting? And I was like, you know what? I don't want to sound homerish, but I got the Rams because I just think this team feels different this year. And it's not because they went quote unquote all in. It's not because all this firepower. It's just this mantra and this culture just feels different. And there was a report that last week, Aaron Donald had like a big kind of spoke to a lot of players and kind of fired guys up. And then a lot of those players had come out and said, like, we want to win this for Aaron. Like, that's the one thing he's lacking on his resume is a Super Bowl win. And, usually you would think guys would say about Matthew Stafford. No, he's only been there a year, but he's the quarterback in the league for 13 years. Or you think they say it for Sean McVay, who's been this great coach, or for Stan Kroenke or for Les Snead. But everyone was like, we want to win this for Aaron Donald. And then to see him take that leadership role in this game, telling the defense, we got to buckle down. We're winning this game in the trenches. How just A, cool is that to you? And B, how much does that give you confidence for this team to win the Super Bowl? Because it does just feel different when your superstar player who leads by example is now vocally leading and firing guys up.
As much as I love analytics and numbers and figuring out how those relate to wins, I love the intangible things like that, where guys find a motivation beyond themselves, bigger than themselves, different than just winning it for themselves or winning a Super Bowl to put a ring on their finger. They want to do it for Aaron Donald. And, I don't know, maybe Aaron Donald should think about screaming and hollering and getting people's faces a little bit more often if it has this kind of effect. Not to be doom and gloom or anything like that, but he's not getting any younger. He's got a few years left in the prime of his career. And it would just be a tragedy to see that wasted if he isn't able to lock in a Super Bowl victory, one of the best players in NFL history, one of the best players in the league right now, just across the board, hands down, any position. In the middle of the line where, not a ton of those guys get noticed and recognized like that, but he gets it, and he's well deserved for all that recognition that he gets, and he really deserves this championship because he's been such a great leader on this team, hard worker, just constantly pushing himself, getting better, and the guys are reflecting. The other guys on the team are reflecting that hard work that he has been putting in for the last a few years. Almost a decade now.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick up your lunch pail and go to work when that's the guy you're lining up next to. And I know Von Miller's stoked. Everyone knows my love for Von Miller, and I love that he's on this team. But you can see how much he respects Aaron Donald and how much he wants to win it for Aaron Donald. He's even said it, like, we want to win this for Aaron Donald. And obviously him and OBJ are like best friends. So there's just so many cool storylines for this team that makes it just feel like, okay, this is the year the Rams bring it home in Los Angeles, when the Super Bowl is in Los Angeles, and you beat your rival in the NFC Championship game in a dramatic game that was, could have gone either way early on, and then ends up, shifting wins and all this. And yeah, just a lot of fun. It's a good time, and I think it's gonna be a fun 2 weeks covering the Super Bowl for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out the offensive line. The interior of the offensive line hasn't been the strong point, but they collectively only allowed one pressure. Austin Corbett was the only one to allow one pressure, and that was huge.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, another crazy adjustment from the other games, because that was Eric Armstead was really getting home in the middle of that offensive line the last few games. So,
yeah, this is putting you on the spot, but I was just noticing, is there a quarterback that looks more calm in the pocket than Stafford? Like, there's times when it looks like it's getting chaotic in there, and he just looks so calm and just kind of like hopping around a little bit. And sometimes it costs him, but I'm just like, man, that dude looks calm in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, the only person I could think of, and just from watching this one game, was Joe Burrow. I mean, that guy is,
yeah,
he's deadpan in there. And he got away He got away from some of those sacks today. Just like he was all greased up or something like that.
Yeah.
But
that one on Chris Jones, when Chris Jones had him twice and he somehow got away from him.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it's great to see that in a quarterback. That's you need that.
Yeah, it'll be covered. I just want to show this real quick. We're going to cover the game all during the week, but Aaron Donald, the D-line, will dominate. They're playing the weakest O-line in the playoffs. The matchup's going to be really fun to cover, this Bengals-Rams matchup. And like, my biggest concern, again, we're not going to talk about it right now, but my biggest concern is the Rams secondary against, three prolific receivers in Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins. So, I mean, that's going to be a crazy matchup. And the Rams D-line against their O-line. So, yeah, a lot of fun things to talk about. The last thing I want to say, Ryan, before we get into the Shrine game and Shrine week, is, so this Rams, the mantra on this Rams team has been like all in, that annoying kind of cliche, all in, which they've really been since McVay got here. I mean, they've made crazy trades for the last 5 years, not just this year. But usually when it's for a quarterback, that's when they start these sayings, if you will. But you look at kind of the way this team is structured right now, and all their star players are locked in for the foreseeable future. I mean, Stafford's still got another year. He's got 2 years technically. The final year's voided based on his Lions contract, but I'm sure they'll definitely extend Stafford. But you've got, Jalen Ramsey locked in, Aaron Donald locked in, Robert Woods locked in, Cooper Kupp locked in. All your stars are pretty much locked in. And you look around the NFC, Russell Wilson may be leaving the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably leaving the Niners. Trey Lance obviously can be great, but there's an unknown there. Aaron Rodgers may be leaving the Packers. Tom Brady 2 days ago retired. Today, now he's saying, oh, maybe not, but most likely Tom Brady's probably retired. New Orleans Saints, Sean Payton just retired. They're going to have a new coach in waiting. Like, the NFC, the Rams could actually dominate the NFC for the next 2 to 5 years. I mean, it's not an all-in year. They could really dominate for a long time just based on the quarterback play and coaching play around them, right?
I think so. Yeah. I hadn't really thought about it. I've been so locked into the season. I haven't really been thinking much past even getting to this year's draft. But yeah, it's incredible that they may have the, a top 2-3 quarterback in the NFC. And obviously they've got all sorts of talent. I mean, Cooper Kupp had a historic year. We'll see what he does next year. That's an exciting question. Robert Woods is going to come back. We didn't really get to see Robert Woods and OBJ working together. That becomes a whole different dynamic there. And then they're going to continue to draft exactly how they have been, bringing in new guys, training them up, getting them on the field. Jordan Fuller took over for John Johnson and did a fine job this year. Second-year player, former 5th-round pick, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're on a really good trajectory, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think the future is brighter than the media likes to portray. I think it's not just this year all in. I think they're just because you don't have those first round picks. I think that this team is set. Like they're in a good spot, and they have still some depth picks, especially when they get some comp picks back, that they can really kind of reload those depth pieces, and they've shown that they can develop. And unfortunately, they're going to lose some coaches again this offseason, most likely, if not for head coaching, but for coordinator positions. Looks like Evero might be going to Denver for the DC position potentially. Wow. So, but anyway, that's for after the season. Right now, we're focused on Super Bowl. Real quick though, I got this comment here. Ryan does not read his chats. It sucks. What is that? I think we've been reading the chats, right? For the most part. I mean, everyone go Rams. I think we're just, give me a question. I don't know what that means. Maybe he's meaning on Twitter. I don't know. Drop his question though. We'll answer your question for you. But I think unless you got anything else to add for this game, we can move on to the Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, we can move on.
All right. So you are in Vegas. First of all, how's the weather in Vegas? Is it cold out there? Or is it warmed up again yet?
It's a little chilly, yeah.
Vegas gets cold, dude. It's always crazy to me how cold it gets. I was driving through in December, and it was like 15 degrees. It's crazy.
It's certainly not that cold. A little bit of a chill in the air. People around here are kind of bundled up, but yeah, it's not bad.
Okay.
We moved from UNLV. We were at UNLV for the first 2 days of practice, and then just moved to Allegiant Stadium. So climate controlled, beautiful environment in there.
Okay, so let me ask that first before we even get to the prospects and stuff. You've been to both now, because I haven't been to Allegiant. So you've been to SoFi. Now you've been to Allegiant, at least in regards of watching a practice. How do they compare in your eyes? Be honest. You're not going to offend anyone. How do they compare in your eyes?
SoFi is just a easy, just beautiful, laid back Southern California day. You know what I mean? And Allegiant, they built it to be a black hole. I mean, the thing looks like a Darth Vader kind of spaceship from the outside, and on the inside they keep it dark as well. I think SoFi is a bit faster on the field. I didn't run the 40 at Allegiant, but it seemed like we got a faster field. They got all the amenities. They got all the cool stuff built into the stadium. SoFi, it seemed like they had better setup for the VIP kind of world, the Hollywood stars and and LeBron James and Leonardo DiCaprio, stuff like that. The one weird thing is they have this behind the end zone. They just have like doors. It looks like you're going to walk into like a wheel making facility, like some sort of industrial warehouse or something like that.
Like a Firestone tire or something.
Yeah. That was the only thing that disappointed me.
Okay. Interesting. But yeah, that's what I've heard, that it's just like it's a very nice stadium, beautiful, but it's, and this isn't a bad thing, but it's like, it was built for the Raiders, whereas SoFi was like built for LA. Like it's that LA vibe, very open. All right, cool. I was just curious. I've driven by it a bunch of times, but I haven't actually been inside yet. So soon. And I just got another comment. Brother, I'm not mad at all. So I thought it was funny. I was like, I feel like I try to read the comments all the time, but yeah, I must have missed it last time. So I apologize, but I appreciate you watching, tuning in. Don't be sorry at all. So I wasn't upset. I was just more like, I didn't know where that was coming from. So, but anyway, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you watching. So, Ryan, the Shrine Bowl. So it's been, what has it been? 3 practices so far?
Yep.
So 3 so far. So just getting rolling. Talk to me, because we, it's a lot going on. It's fresh. It's early. You'll be there all week, so we'll have a lot more updates. I'm sure you'll be putting articles up on LAFB Network too for all you guys that love draft stuff, and we're going to obviously tailor those towards fits for the Rams and for the Chargers. But let's start first with just the LA guys. So UCLA and USC guys are there. So Kyle Phillips, Quentin Lake, I believe, is there.
Yep.
But is there at USC? There's a lineman there, right? Who was also at the NFLPA Bowl, correct?
Yeah. Jalen McKenzie.
Yep.
Yep.
So
And
just
then
talk
also
to me.
Keontae Ingram.
Keontae Ingram, running back for USC. So two Bruins, 2 Trojans. So I'll just toss you. Just talk to me quickly how those 4 guys have looked so far, in what you've seen in, I'm sure, limited action.
I mean, Keontae Ingram right off the bat is just a cut above. I mean,
okay.
Guys are just bouncing off of him. He's running so powerfully. He's breaking tackles. He's looking really good. Kyle Phillips is getting a lot of targets. 5'11", 191. And he's shifty. He's getting open. In the 11-on-11s, he's getting open and finding a lot of targets that way. Quentin Lake, he's been solid. Hasn't gotten burned or anything like that, but hasn't really flashed in any particular way. He just seems like it could be a bit more physical for his size.
Okay.
That's the only thing I've noticed. Real quick on those guys.
Love it. Yeah. Kyle Phillips is a guy I'm super high on. Obviously a little biased because we cover UCLA and whatnot, but he's a guy that I don't think nationally is that known, but I think is through this process, through the Shrine Bowl, through the combine, his draft stock's just going to rise because people are going to see like how good he is. And I hate making the comp to just another white receiver because they look the same, they kind of play, but he reminds me of, and I'm talking collegiately, not where he is today, but reminds me of a Cooper Kupp. Like the size is very similar, the 40 time is similar, where they play kind of all over the field, but primarily kind of out of the slot and doing things, how shifty they are, how cerebral they are, the hands they have. Like he has that ability. And if you remember, Cooper Kupp was a 4th round pick out of Eastern Washington. So it wasn't like he was a 1st round pick that all of a sudden now is panning out. So Kyle Phillips is the guy I think that I know you're doing it anyway, but he's the guy I want to focus on because I think little by little, he's going to get more national recognition and we'll be sitting here saying, we told you so.
Yeah. And, the thing that he reminds me of Cooper Kupp the most is his body control. He's able to go up and make those catches, turn, he's been really impressive to watch.
Yeah, he's just a fun player. And I think he's going to make an NFL team very happy. Whoever does draft him in the mid rounds, most likely. I could see him going in that 3rd round range. I'm sure other people have him lower, and I probably have him higher just because I always do our LA guys. But you look at Keontae Ingram, and before we move on, here's a guy, Ryan, that when he transferred from Texas to USC last year, I know there was a lot of excitement about him. And we were expecting to see this really dynamic back that was like, okay, cool, we can really extend our backfield. And then USC had their, obviously we know what USC season was, a lot of struggles, coaching change. But he was kind of throughout the year was the stable, him and Drake London were the 2 stable guys. They were like, okay, those are the 2 guys we can really bank on. And so he's another guy that the production was probably lower than other running backs, but from what you're seeing is a guy that really could actually raise his draft stock a lot because the talent is so high and the intangibles are so high. Is that off base?
No, I think you're right. And, as I've been assessing the 2 different collegiate all-star games that I've been to, I was at the NFLPA practices before I came out here. And, if you look at these rosters, it's guys that are coming from small schools that don't get enough attention, or it's guys like Ingram that are coming from a situation that isn't ideal for fostering a good football player. Yeah. It's hard to switch coaches in midstream and still be successful. And and he's one of those guys that he's at a big school at a huge program, but in some ways that can make it even harder to kind of garner that attention. Because if you're not, putting up Jonathan Taylor like numbers or something like that, you're not going to get that same following. So I looked at his college numbers, and he seems like that kind of guy, that kind of steady performer. And there's a reason he was recruited by Texas and USC. It's because he has that base talent, and he has the physicality, the size, the speed. And to be honest, like some of the guys that are invited here just aren't at that same level. They were never recruited at at that high level. So you just see the differences in that kind of recruiting class, but also you see the kind of benefits that come along with getting to attend something like a USC.
Totally, and I think that's a great point because it shows off that why he played at his college like that and to begin with. Like maybe the production this year wasn't there, which it was decent production for what the USC offense was. But he's a guy that if this process goes well, I think he could be a higher drafted running back than maybe a lot of people are talking about. Just because he did have that flash and he has a lot of tread left. I think I don't think he got used a ton in the sense of those Wisconsin running backs, as good as they are every single year. And obviously Jonathan Taylor's been fantastic in the NFL, but those Wisconsin running backs have a lot of wear and tear on that tread because they run those guys into the ground. A guy like Keontae Ingram, he only had 175 carries or whatever, so he's got a lot left.
Well, and the way that teams are drafting running backs now, like he could be a really good asset at a low round. I mean,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a 4th, 5th round pick or even a 6th round pick that you get a steal, and all of a sudden he comes in and is a dynamic player. So, Ryan, outside of our LA guys, so USC and UCLA, just give me a couple players that have stood out to you or that at least you have just had fun watching so far while you've been down there.
There's tons of good wide receiving talent out here right now. Top of mind from North Carolina, Tai Chandler. He was making plays all over today. It was crazy. He was 1,000+ rusher at NC, 13 touchdowns while he was there. 6 foot 210, and he was just all over the place. He was catching balls. He was powering through. Good speed, good cut. Everything you want to see from a wide receiver. This name Tegan Quatoriano is a tight end actually.
Yeah,
6'6", 220. Posted a video. Oregon State is going crazy for that video right now. And
I saw that. They're loving it.
Yeah. Another guy, big production, obviously a big body dude and big target. Just fun to watch so far.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Samori Toure out of Nebraska. Lean, long, great hands. He's just a good athlete out and about. He can fight with the cornerbacks if he needs to. I just have Staley Berryhill and Taquan Thornton making some nice catches out here too. So those are just names that kind of jumped off, all from the pass catching realm of things. And then just energy guys, which I love to see, especially at this kind of event. They're so important to building these all-star teams. Marquand McCall from Kentucky, nose tackle.
Okay.
He was out there hyping up that defense, having a good old time. He goes by Bully Ball McCall, which is just a great Twitter handle. And
Bully Ball McCall, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And I called him out and I told him I liked his energy, and he grabbed me, put his arm around me. He said, "It's so hard not to be excited to be here." So,
I love it. Did he really? That's great.
Yeah.
Those
He just grabbed
Chargers.
me too. Like I was just walking by and he pulled me in for one. So
I love it. You guys get a drink later or got some dinner or what?
No. Follow each other though. So
Okay. There you go. Those Chargers might need some interior help in the draft, so maybe Bully Ball McCall is a guy that they need to be looking for. So it's kind of like obviously the Senior Bowl, different than the Shrine Bowl, but Quinn Miners was that guy that was just like a darling, and like everyone loved his belly and all this, and he ends up being a 3rd round pick for the Broncos and ended up playing like 70% of the snaps this year. So you never know. Sometimes those fun stories end up becoming actual real NFL players, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have hype men out there. You got to have those kind of guys on your sidelines. Real glue guy, you know.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So yeah, Ryan will have more stuff up on LAFBnetwork.com later throughout the week. But last thing I want to ask you about, because I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is specific to only the Shrine Bowl, the whole exchanging of like stickers on helmets. You've posted a few things. I think that's so cool. Talk to me about that a little bit, just because I think a lot of people probably don't even know that happens.
Well, they're doing it at the NFLPA Bowl as well.
Okay.
The Shrine Bowl is much older, so I would imagine it probably started here. I got to ask some of these players how it started, but it's interesting to see. The defense does it more than the offense.
Okay.
And so far, specifically for this one, I can't remember which one it was, but one side does it much more than the East does it more than the West. Let's just say
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
So I'm just curious if that's going to play out in some sort of team building kind of cohesive play when it comes to Thursday. But I'll get some information on that. And you know what I'm curious about is the guys that don't have any stickers on their helmets. Like, are they just kind of like anal retentive about their helmets, or are they just loners, or yeah, I don't know, but it's really fun. But it's tough because you'll look at a helmet and it's red, and then it's got a sticker on it, and you're looking through your roster going, who is that guy? Is he from Western Kentucky? What is that?
Yeah, you're like, that's got a Trojan sticker and a Nebraska sticker. I have no idea who that is.
Yeah.
But it comes down to like in draft day, like the $1 million question, like, well, did his teammates attend his birthday party? It's like, well, did anyone trade stickers with him at the Shrine Bowl? Like that's a big question now in the draft. Like, is he just a loner with no stickers on his helmet? Hard hitting stuff there. Hard hitting stuff.
Yeah. Sticker watch. I'm on sticker watch. Hashtag sticker watch.
Sticker watch. Okay. Start the hashtag. Love it. Well, dude, thank you for jumping on with me. We're talking, huge Rams win, going to the Super Bowl. We will both be on Radio Row all week in LA. Super pumped for that. So we'll have guys out there, tons of interviews coming your way, guys. We're going to try to get as many Rams players as we can. Obviously, they're in the Super Bowl, so I don't know how challenging that will be. But I know the Chargers players will be cruising along Radio Row, plus other celebrities and stuff like that. So we'll have plenty going on Radio Row. Ryan is going to be at the Shrine Bowl for the rest of this week, including the game. So stick with him at Ryan121 on Twitter. But dude, it's been fun.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Send me any questions, you guys out there in LAFB Network Nation. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Real quick before we sign off, I got to answer that question since I don't want to ask like I don't look at the chat, RV Hopper. So before we sign off here, came in late, Higbee being out. I am surprised the play of Kendall Blanton. Rams seem to develop players that can step in and play well. He made some great plays. Can you comment? So yeah, we talked about this earlier. But that's totally fine. We can comment again. We were just saying how literally what you just said there. Like, it's amazing how going into the training camp where Ryan and I both were there in attendance, Blanton was like that 4 or 5 tight end, like that bubble player to even make the roster, let alone end up playing in the NFC Championship game. Then you get injuries to Johnny Munt, to other guys that, the rookie Jacob Harris, and he just continued to grind, continued to step up. And I think that's hats off to the coaching staff, hats off to the tight ends coach, and hats off to him for the work ethic he put in. But we talked a bunch about earlier how it was just, 5 for 57 and a few of those catches on clutch third down conversions. Just impressive what he did. And I think that's a testament to this team where it's built with stars, but it's reliant on its depths and lunch pail guys. So I'll say that again. It's built on stars, but it's reliant on its depth and lunch pail guys. I like that saying. Gonna stick with that. So Ryan, my man, appreciate you. Are you gonna go gambling tonight, or are you going in? Are you staying in early? Are you going out of the town?
No, I gotta get up at like 6:30 to make it over there by 8 o'clock. So
shoot, all right.
I'm gonna turn in. I got my Pinot Noir here, so.
Hey, okay. You didn't have any on the show. You could have been drinking it while you're on the show. I gotta stay with it. I've been over here drinking whiskey, and I'm just
out of a coffee cup. That's great.
Yeah, my Iceland coffee cup from Iceland. So
cool.
All right, brother. Well, hey, appreciate you. Thanks for joining the show. Best of luck out there in Vegas. Obviously, we'll be in touch. All of you guys, make sure to follow Ryan at Ryan121 on Twitter. I'm at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. Main handle is at LAFB Network. We appreciate you all. My brother, we'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.